Everyone makes mistakes, but there's one we all make, a mistake so silent we don't even notice it's destroying us. This is the story of Daniel, a man who had everything people said would make him happy, yet lost everything that actually mattered. And it all began with one small choice. The city was alive that morning. Cars honked, phones buzzed, and everyone seemed to be in a race to nowhere. Daniel stood in front of his mirror, tightening his tie, the reflection of success staring back at him. Shiny suit, expensive watch, but tired eyes. He worked at one of the biggest firms in the city. His name was printed on the glass door. Daniel Cole, Senior Executive. He had money, power, prestige. But as he left home that morning, his little daughter ran to the door. "Daddy, can you come to my school play tonight?" He smiled, but didn't answer. Just a nod and a "we'll see." And as he drove off, her small voice faded behind the hum of his engine. That day, Daniel closed one of the biggest deals of his career. People clapped. His boss smiled. Champagne flowed. Everyone celebrated him. But as the laughter echoed around him, Daniel's phone buzzed, a photo message. It was his daughter on stage, wearing a cardboard crown. The caption from his wife read, "She kept looking for you." For a moment, the noise around him disappeared. He stared at the photo, the crown slightly tilted on her head, her smile brave but small. And that's when the voice inside him whispered, "You're winning the world, but losing your home." That night, Daniel came home to find his daughter asleep on the couch. The crown was still on her head. He knelt beside her, brushing her hair aside, guilt heavy in his chest. His wife stood quietly in the doorway. "She waited as long as she could," she said softly. "Then she performed anyway." Daniel wanted to say he was sorry, but the words felt too small. He told himself he'd make it up to them. Tomorrow, always tomorrow. And that's the mistake, isn't it? We think there will always be time. Time to say sorry, time to show up, time to be present. But time doesn't wait. And for Daniel, the next morning would prove just how costly that mistake could be. The mistake we all make isn't choosing the wrong thing, it's believing the right thing can wait. They say you never realize the weight of a moment until it becomes a memory you can never return to. For Daniel, that day came too soon. The day everything stopped. The next morning was like every other. Daniel's phone alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. He checked his emails before his feet even touched the floor. Meetings, deadlines, calls. In the kitchen, his wife packed their daughter's lunch. "Are you coming home early today?" she asked. Daniel didn't look up. "I'll try," he said, the same 2 words she'd heard for 5 years. Outside, his daughter waved at him from the gate, her backpack almost bigger than she was. "Bye, Daddy," he waved back distractedly, eyes still on his phone. And that was the last time she saw his smile that morning. It was 11:07 a.m. when Daniel's assistant rushed in. Her voice was trembling. "Sir, you need to take this call." It was the hospital. There had been an accident, his wife and daughter's car. A truck driver had fallen asleep at the wheel. The world slowed. The walls of his glass office closed in. For years, he'd lived behind that glass, untouchable, invincible. Now it felt like a prison. He ran out, his tie flying behind him, the phone slipping from his hand. He didn't even lock his car. He just drove. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and fear. Doctors whispered. Machines beeped. Daniel's wife was sitting by a small hospital bed, her face pale, her hands shaking. His daughter was alive, but asleep. A tiny bandage on her forehead, machines helping her breathe. He reached out and held her hand. It was so small, so warm, yet felt like it could fade away any moment. Tears finally came. Not the kind that fall quietly, but the kind that break years of silence in a single breath. He realized, in that moment, all the promotions, the meetings, the deals, none of them could buy back the seconds he had wasted. He whispered through his tears, "I should have been there. I should have been there." And as the monitor beeped softly beside her, Daniel finally understood. Sometimes life doesn't take away what we love to punish us. It takes it away to wake us up. The day everything stopped wasn't the end for Daniel. It was the beginning of seeing what truly mattered. They say pain changes people, but sometimes it doesn't just change you, it wakes you. Daniel had spent his life chasing success. Now he was chasing time. For 2 days, Daniel didn't leave the hospital. The chair beside his daughter's bed became his world. He watched the machines breathe for her, counting every blink, every twitch of her fingers. His wife slept in intervals, exhausted, drained. Daniel sat awake, whispering apologies to the silence. I missed your school play. I wasn't there for your birthday. I was always busy with everything but you. But guilt wasn't enough anymore. He needed change. He needed a promise, one he wouldn't break. That night, as the rain whispered against the window, Daniel leaned closer to his daughter and said, If you wake up, I'll never waste another sunrise. I'll be the father you deserve. Morning came, soft golden light filled the room, and then a movement. Her fingers twitched. Her eyes opened, slow, confused, searching. Daddy! Daniel froze, tears already falling. He grabbed her hand, laughing and crying all at once. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm right here. The doctor called it a miracle. Daniel called it a second chance. He knew the old version of himself had died in that hospital room. The man who only worked for tomorrow was gone. The one who wanted to live today had been born. Weeks later, his daughter walked again. Every step she took was a reminder that the smallest things we take for granted are the biggest blessings we'll ever have. Daniel quit his high-paying job, not because he failed, but because he finally succeeded at something greater, living with purpose. He started volunteering at the children's ward. Every morning, he would sit beside recovering kids, telling them stories, drawing smiles where pain once lived. One of the nurses asked him one day, Why do you spend so much time here? He smiled. Because I learned that healing isn't just for the body, it's for the soul too. In the quiet of that hospital garden, Daniel finally felt peace. He looked up at the sunrise and whispered, Thank you for the second chance. He had once chased money, success, and titles, but now he was chasing moments, the kind that make life worth remembering. The promise he made had changed him, but promises are tested when the world moves on and you must stay true. Every promise is easy to make, until life asks you to prove it. Daniel thought his story had ended in light, but life had one more lesson waiting. A year had passed. Daniel's daughter laughed again, chasing butterflies in their little garden. The house was smaller now, the car older, but the hearts inside it, full. One afternoon, Daniel received a call. A company he'd once begged to join wanted him back. A higher position, more money, more power. He stared at the offer. The same dream he once lived for now felt like a ghost trying to pull him backward. His wife looked at him and said softly, You already chose what matters, Daniel. Don't forget that. He smiled, but deep inside, the battle began again. For days, Daniel wrestled with temptation. Bills were rising. Savings were thin. The promise he made in the hospital echoed in his mind. If you wake up, I'll never waste another sunrise. So he sat by his daughter's bed again, not in fear this time, but in remembrance. She was asleep, breathing softly. Her tiny hand clutched a crayon drawing, a picture of their family standing under a big sun, and written beneath in a child's handwriting, My daddy makes the world warm. That was all he needed. Daniel turned off his phone. The job could wait. Life couldn't. Months later, Daniel started something new, a small storytelling channel online. He shared stories of hope, of second chances, of the mistakes we all make and how to rise above them. His videos didn't go viral overnight, but slowly, hearts began to listen. One evening, his daughter sat beside him, watching one of his stories. She smiled and said, Daddy, you're helping people feel better. And that night, Daniel realized success was never about the numbers. It was about impact. And sometimes the smallest story can save the biggest soul. Years later, Daniel's hair turned gray, but every morning he still watched the sunrise, still whispered the same words. Never again will I forget what matters most. Because in the end, the mistake we all make is waiting for tragedy before we start living truthfully. Sometimes the world teaches us through loss, but wisdom comes when we choose to listen before the fall. Don't wait until life forces you to slow down. Hold your loved ones tighter. Speak kinder. Live like every sunrise is your last chance to be grateful, because happiness was never hidden. It was just waiting for us to stop running. This is Whispering Tailies, where stories remind you that even mistakes can become miracles.